Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
Welcome, Andrew.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here today. We have author Andrew Givler. He is a fantasy author, and I can't wait to dive in your books because they look so interesting. The first book is Soul Fraud, and it's the Debt Collector series. Tell us about the character. Start us out. What do we need to know?
Okay, so Soul Fraud is the first book in a urban fantasy series. So it takes place in LA, where I live. And the essential conceit is the main character is a normal human being. He has no idea about magic, the supernatural world, anything around him. And he's just a loser. His life is not going well. He's really down on his luck. And on his 25th birthday, a demon approaches him out of nowhere and says, hey, we can fix this. We can make your whole life better. 10 perfect years in exchange for your soul, right? The classic Faustian thing. And the main character, who is a loser, he's not that much of a loser, and he says, like, no, thank you. I've seen that TV show. Like, even I know, like, no, that's not worth it.
I know.
Right? Exactly. And the main character, the demon, has a little bit of a breakdown because he's a really poor salesman. He's very behind on his quota. He's under a lot of pressure from management. And so he forges Matt's signature on the contract and then kind of runs off into the night. And the main character's life is like abruptly turned around, is like all of a sudden things start going his way. Everything's perfect. And instead of being excited, he's horrified because, like, he knows what this means. He didn't want this. This is not a good deal. And so that sort of sets him off on a series of adventures. He has to try to figure out how to get his soul back before time runs out. And he makes a lot of friends and enemies along the way that sort of all have repercussions as it unfolds.
Interesting. So what other type of characters are in this book? We have demons.
Yeah. I do a lot with like Nephilim, a lot of like hybrid human supernatural type creatures. So I have Orion, like the hunter, like the constellation. In this urban fantasy world, all of the constellations are actually people. So like Orion really exists. I mean, he did in myth too, but like the reason that he's up in the stars is because he did something noteworthy, and he's like a supernatural hunter. You've got angels, you've got monsters coming in from the outside, like very sort of outsider, twisted demon type things, some Lovecraftian kind of thing. You have really creatures from all kinds of like myths and religions. We've got like some of the Roman pantheon shows up, things like that. Basically, the way the world works is that he can run into anything as he's kind of bouncing around. Most of the supernatural, like different ideologies exist instead as like corporations. So they're all trying to gather as many souls as they can. So hell's run like a business, heaven's run like a business, everything in between also run like a business. The Fae, everybody kind of all in on that game.
Interesting. So they all have different factions?
Yeah.
That are vying for these human souls?
Essentially, yeah. Essentially, like, sort of the thing that makes reality, what holds reality in place, are souls, and immortals don't have any. Yeah. So in order for them to sort of like carve out their space and exist, they need to sort of have permission for humans to from humans to exist by having their souls, sort of like, extrapolating that old, like the vampire can't come into your home unless you invite them. Immortals can't live in our reality unless we invite them too. Is sort of like kind of where that idea comes from.
Interesting. How did you come up with the premise for the book, or the series, I guess?
So the actual sales thing is kind of funny because I had a corporate sales job, which I was not very good at. And then one day they called all of us in because somebody at a different location, I never met this person, but another sales rep who had been struggling did what Dan the Demon, that was the name of the demon, did, where he forged the signature on a bunch of clients to like do these like, services, and was like, ta-da, I made my quota. And then it got discovered and, it was a nightmare. And so they brought us all in basically to be like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah, cautionary tale.
Yeah. And I was sitting there and I had some of maybe like the themes and the vibe that I wanted to play with, but I hadn't figured out how to like start the story or what like the main character should be about. And I was like, man, that's crazy that somebody would do that. I wonder what it would be like if somebody did that like with a Faustian bargain or something like that. And that's sort of what got the ball rolling.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I can't even imagine doing something like that.
Truly an insane thing. And it was like
Right.
for not a small amount of money. I mean, it was a pretty like significant like thing. I don't know what they were thinking. Like I said, I never knew them. But yeah, we're sitting in this meeting and I'm kind of like grinning in the back because I'm like, wait, that's such a cool idea. And not to do personally, but just like, whoa, what a crazy idea. And that's what really set this whole series off.
And were you a writer before this point? Had you written anything?
I had written a novel that I threw away because I didn't like it. This was only a couple years out of college. Like I wanted to be a writer. I was trying, but I hadn't yet made something that I was like proud of. But yes, it was like my interest and my goal. I just hadn't achieved it yet, I would say.
Fun. And I think I see like the fourth or fifth book is coming out in the series.
Yeah, there are four out and a novella, and then there's a fifth one that's going to come either late this year or early next year, depending on a couple things. But yeah, and I think it's going to end up being seven or eight, depending on exactly how some of the chips fall.
Okay, so the overarching goal is that he gets his soul back. So he's not getting it back till the end. Is that what I'm hearing? If he
I
does.
think I think that the way that it's gonna, that process is has gotten tied into a lot of things. There's some cover-ups occurring, there's some corruption, there's other things. So he's made sort of these like bigger enemies and things are kind of like stitched together more. So getting it back is complicated.
Oh, okay.
So yes, he has to solve some other things along the way, which will take some of that time.
Okay, so if we picked up just one book and read, would you understand if you picked up one in the middle, or does each story kind of have its own challenge that he needs to solve?
Yeah, I mean, so urban fantasy does sort of have a tendency to be more episodic, right? It has a lot of inspiration from those like crime dramas or like old Private Eye type novels. And so there is usually sort of a thing that happens in each book. However, there is an overarching plot and there are characters that return. So I think it would be difficult. I know for a fact some people have done it. People have left reviews being like, "Oh, I accidentally read this one first, but I really enjoyed it," or whatever. But like they're intended to be read in a certain order, but you probably could like pick up on the vibe if you had to, but you'd definitely be missing some puzzle pieces.
Right. And do you think, do you have any other, you said you have a novella in the same series, right? Have you written anything else besides those?
Not in that series.
Okay.
The novella was sort of a little side project. There's a 1 year gap between book year and one book two, and people kept saying, "I'd really like to know more about like what happened during that period of time." And I kind of was just sort of tossing around stuff, and I came up with something, and I was like, "Oh, that'd be fun." So I have it. That's right here. It's pretty small. This is it right here. It's as you can see, it's real small,
Okay. Yeah.
but it's a fun little side story just about some of the adventures they got. We call it like book 1.5. It's
Yeah, that's common. And yeah, we have to figure out like how many yachts he gets and how many mansions he gets
exactly.
in between, right? How good is his life?
It's not. It's certainly. I mean, he certainly has some advantages, but I think that because he puts a lot of resistance into it, which he has a gift for making enemies wherever he goes. So some of the like surface level problems have been solved. One of the tenets of the deal is every year before his birthday, they just give him $5 million. Like, a demon shows up with a double bag and is like, "Here you go," and then poof. So some of his more normal constraints are solved, but he has some pretty big problems that keep him plenty stressed.
Well, a bag of $5 million in cash would also be a problem.
Yeah, which is actually part of the premise of the fifth book, which is called Sleep Debt, is actually the IRS shows up because he owes a ton of back taxes that he doesn't know about, and that's a whole thing. So yes, sometimes the gifts from hell aren't as straightforward as you'd think.
Well, I can imagine. And is this written through first person point of view, or do we get a third person, or how did you write this?
This is first person past.
Past. Okay.
So yeah, it's all from the main character's point of view. Because part of it is that like there's a lot of like big moving machines that have been working for millennia, kind of going around him, and so we know as much as he does about a lot of
Okay.
the circumstances and situations because he's not coming in like he's not a veteran wizard who's been trained and do everything. He's figuring this out as it's going on. So it gives a good vehicle, I think, for us to kind of like learn with him.
Right. Yeah. Learn about the world and what's going on. And as a
Exactly.
complete newbie that we are and he is.
Exactly. The whole time, every time he goes somewhere, he's like, "That's how it works." Like that's really dumb. And also, okay, now I have to figure out how to handle this.
And most humans are walking around like having no clue, right?
Correct. Yeah, this is like a secluded. If you know, you know, but most people don't know.
Very cool. I love the vibes.
Thank you. We have fun.
And I need to dig in because I love fairies. I write about fae, but mine are a
Okay.
little bit different from most others. But I just need to know about your fae, so we can
Sure.
just dig into that one little group for a minute.
So the Fae in my story are I'd say they're fairly classical. In like the Midsummer Night Dream Shakespearean sort of sense. They can't tell lies. They're bound by certain rules. The queen of all Fae is Gloriana. And they kind of hate Shakespeare because he gave away. They feel like his art gave a lot of the secrets about how to deal with them, and so they used to do a lot better in dealings with humans before he sort of like made the folk tales more popular and people got wise. And actually, in my world, they're sort of a declining empire. So they're like one of the like more forgotten and faded ones, and they do not appreciate that. So they're trying to figure out how to get back in the game. They're sort of rebranding, trying to figure out, there's this like whole corporate sort of vibe to how everybody operates.
Yeah.
So they're kind of going through like a rebranding and trying to figure out how to get back into being one of the bigger players, which is why they have interest in the main character at times because they sort of see him as a way to kind of get leverage over some of the other rivals.
Interesting. And do you plot out? Do you know what's going to happen in each of the books yet? Or is that sort of as you go?
I know where we're going, but the path surprises me often. And I am more of a pantser in general, where like usually when I write a book, what I do now is I sit down and I write like a one page, which is usually like 3 paragraphs, and it's maybe like a paragraph for act 1, 2, 3. But I don't even really try to force that. I just sort of am like, this happens. Meanwhile, this is going on, and then they have to solve this. And then I start writing. And then usually by about the halfway point, I go back and I look at what I wrote, and I'm like, well, this isn't the book I'm writing.
This didn't happen.
But that sort of helps ground me and give me like a good starting spot. And like I said, I sort of know like the big conspiracies and like the high level stuff that's going on. So most of the time I'm informed in the direction that I take. Like I'm like, we're kind of going left, but how left and when, well, sometimes, we find that out as we go.
And how long does it take you to write one of these books? I know you are a YouTube gaming, you have a YouTube gaming channel too. So is this your side hustle or is the
This
other
is
your
my side hustle.
Okay.
Yeah. YouTube is my full-time job. I write books at night. I'm getting better. I would say my urban fantasy series they're all between like 110 and 130,000 words. And when I'm really doing well, I can write 3,000 words a day in about 2.5 hours. So I can usually get one of these done because I get stuck once or twice. It's maybe like 2 to 3 months to do the rough draft, and then I do a bunch of revisions and everything. But actual just pure rough, like words on page, somewhere between 2 to 3 months.
That's pretty quick. Yeah.
Getting there, and I will say the first couple were much slower, but like the last 2 have been about that fast.
Interesting. And do you like, I'm a pantser too. So I don't write
One of us,
outlines.
yes.
I know. I do mine graphically. Like I literally have a plot line
Oh, okay.
drawn on a poster and I'll put sticky notes with the different things I want to put there. And then usually half of those come down. But do you insert themes into does one book have a theme versus another book, or they kind of like come in and out over the series?
Yeah, I think with urban fantasy, often books really have kind of like a singular theme because they do sort of have like something that gets wrapped up inside of each one. more or less. So there is usually like a more like compared to like my progression fantasy or like a high fantasy thing where it's more like we're on this one journey and it's just going to be multiple installments. There is often like this book we're kind of dealing with this thing and this is going to be the vibe and this is where we're going to be and this is what's going on. There's some series level themes, but I would say definitely each book has its own like unique. This is the problem. These are the direct, enemies or antagonists that we're dealing with right in this situation, and the thing that needs to be overcome. So that does like set the themes differently. For example, book 4 is called Death Tax, and in that one he actually dies because his part of it, his deal with his soul is that he can't be collected for 10 years. So he basically gets recruited by this billionaire who's trying to achieve immortality, and they want to kill him to see what happens and then bring him back. So he ends up at like the death sorting system, which is just the DMV. But like that whole book takes place like, in this very like death, underworld sort of situation, but that's not where he is every book. So,
Right, yeah.
we definitely deal with like different unique themes based on sort of the like particular concept of each one.
That sounds like kind of a low point in the series, I have to say.
Well, he knows he's going to come back. Like, it's a deliberate,
Right.
like, we want to find out what happens. So we're sending you because they can't deliver you. Like, death is very much like a mailman. And so he shows up and they're like, well, you're not supposed to be here for another 8 years. So.
Yeah, and the devil has already taken his soul, right?
Right.
So
that's all in the
that's
system.
And that's what makes an immortal. So yeah, so he
Yes,
can't.
exactly. There's a whole lot going on. But that one has a very different theme than the first book, where he's running around LA being like, how do I get my soul back?
And you said he has a tendency, or the main character has a tendency to make other characters not like him or get other characters mad at him. Do we love him, or is he kind of like, we like some things about him and not other things?
Oh yeah, he's not edgy.
Okay.
It's more that he mouths off to sensitive creatures often. So he's personally sassed a lot of demons that have come to deal with him or other things. His friends sort of put up with his bad jokes. They like him in spite of his sense of humor. But he doesn't know when to shut up is mostly mostly the thing.
That's kind of endearing sometimes.
I mean, I think he's funny, but it is my sense of humor sometimes. So, that I'm not a good source.
And you say this is an adult character. He's 24 at the beginning, and it sounds like there is one time jump between the first and second book. What age readers generally enjoy this, and what is the youngest reader that you would think would be okay to read these books?
It's a pretty wide range. I don't think that these books are YA or written for kids specifically. However, like we said, my day job is doing YouTube, and that is a younger audience. So I knew that when I wrote these books, there would be younger people who would want to check them out. So it's written with that in mind. I have been told about kids, I think as young as 11, who've read it like with their parents. Like their parents sent me an email and were like, my son and I read this book. He's 11. And I'm like, okay, that's like a lot younger than I was even thinking. I usually say that the books are kind of like PG-13 rated, right? Like if you could watch Top Gun, you could probably read these books, or like John Wick, or like an action movie sort of thing. There's
Wick,
maybe not John.
Sure, that's
that one's maybe a little more
example.
intense. Actually, I think John Wick is R. So yeah, that was not a bad. That was a bad example.
Yeah. Like many people get killed in John Wick. I've seen those movies.
Yes, you're right. People do die in these books too, but there's not like a lot of like explicit stuff. There's not a lot of swearing, that kind of thing. So it's PG-13 is like usually where I say that it kind of rides. But it's written by an adult for adults for the most part.
Right. Well, I could totally see this as a Netflix series.
Hey, you know what? If they want to give me a call, I'm happy to chat.
And you live in the right place, so you should be right there.
If only it were so easy.
I know, right? Well, Andrew Givler, thank you so much. We will be waiting for your next book, and hopefully you will come back to talk about that and the rest of the series. Please tell everyone where we can find you and your books.
Sure. Okay, so you can find me on Amazon under Andrew Givler. Soul Fraud is the title of my first urban fantasy. I also have the first book of my progression fantasy, Ironbound, which is coming out October 14th, which is a brand new series published by Aethon, so I guess that's in just a couple days. And that's pretty much, that's where you can find me the easiest.
Oh, maybe we should jump over to that new series
We
then.
can
We've
if
got
you'd
a couple
like.
of minutes
If you
left.
got
Let's
time,
definitely
sure.
do that. I'm sorry. I spent a lot of time on this book and now
I
I'm
mean,
like, wait,
they're all my
you're
babies, right? I'll
right.
talk about any of them forever. It's
Okay,
yeah.
Ironbound. Tell me
Yes.
about that one.
Okay, so Ironbound is a Roman Empire inspired progression fantasy, with sort of like like kind of like a Will of the Many sort of vibe going on to it. And it's about a world similar to our world but different, where the only way for people to become magic is if they actually infuse this metal that falls from the sky into their body, and then that allows them to sort of attune to an element and operate it and control it. And so magic is a limited resource, right? People aren't magical, but they can become magical. And our main character, Castor, grows up in the Iron Empire, where the Empress owns all of the magic, and she gives, people as they come of age, people who are proven worthy, they sort of get the opportunity to join the elite thing. So we join him as he's coming of age. He's going through his trial. He's always wanted to do this. And a whole bunch of things go wrong. And I can't really tell you what, but a whole bunch of things go wrong. There's a lot of cover up, there's betrayal, bad things happen, and his dreams are shattered. And he sort of gets like shuttled off in the conspiracy cover up to die in the legions. And so from there, he has to figure out how to survive, how to make do with what he's ended up with, magic wise and things like that, and then get vengeance for the wrongs that have been done to him.
Interesting. So tell me, dive into progressive fantasy for
Sure.
me. I haven't heard that term before, and I talked to lots of authors, so that's surprising.
It's a newer one. It's like a subgenre that's slowly codifying right now. Progression fantasy is like kind of like a cousin to lit RPG. In the sense where the magic usually has like a really defined set of rules. So in a lot of epic fantasy, Randall Thor in the Wheel of Time, he gets stronger, but we don't really have like a number or a metric or an understanding of what that is. He can just do more than he could before. And instead, in progression fantasy, there is sort of a direct tie to you've you've achieved this rank or this tier of magic. This means that you can do this and you can't do this. Now it's not like a full-on stat sheet or like numbers, like, lit RPG can go into like, you're in a game and here's your like menus and everything. This is just, there's actually usually no numbers. Like that's like one of the big definitions. There's no numbers. So like in Ironbound, for example, the metal that you infuse with it, it goes into your arms. Like I don't know if you can quite see right here. I'm holding it up for the to the camera, but he has these like copper metal veins running through his arms. But as he works with it and grows with it and feeds it, it will eventually turn to silver. And when it does, it will gain new properties that it can do along with what it could originally. And so basically, it's just that like hard definition of this was what it means to be as strong as this person is, to sort of like give a little bit more grounding to that in there. But then it still reads like an epic fantasy or a high fantasy or something like that. It's just a little more grounded in what the magic means and what it does.
And would you call Ironbound a YA, or is that another adult series?
I would say that it is similarly written.
Okay.
It is adult. People die. There is violence, but there isn't a lot of swearing. There isn't any like explicit nudity. Again, probably like that PG-13. It's a little bloodier, maybe, but like not horrifically so. I was definitely reading books like that when I was 13, so
Well, I was talking to someone and they were saying that they were in a YA group and people wanted to cut all these subjects out. And I was like, you know what? In fourth grade, I learned about the Holocaust. Like, we were talking about genocide in the fourth grade. Like, I was 10. Like, people die.
Yeah, a lot of people were dying in the books I was reading as I was growing up. So I always find that question really hard to answer because I was like, man, I was in the adult fantasy section of my library from like 13 onwards, just grabbing every single book off the shelf. So for me, I think I would be comfortable letting my 13-year-old read it. That's not always the case for everybody else,
Right,
but that's the best I can offer.
Right. And it sounds a little bit of, coming of age-ish too, because he's just coming into this spot where he would have attained this rank and everything he always wanted, as you said, and it totally gets. And that's interesting that you go off on the oh no, I shouldn't call it a tangent. That you take up the plot line of vengeance and revenge. So I would be interested to see how that goes through the series.
Yeah, it's a lot of big emotions, but he gets wronged pretty bad, and part of I think most progressions deep down, this one in particular, are about like what the price of power is and like what it means to accumulate power, both as an individual, but also like as a society, right? He's in this empire that's existed that's sort of starting to maybe like begin its downward trend, like, you know, where you've hit that moment where things are not as like, things are corrupt, things are, you know, and so part of it is him constantly being shocked that the world he thinks he lived in isn't it, and deciding if he wants to do something about it or not.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that hero moment, that decision point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Will he or will he not? But that's so interesting about the metal falling from the sky, because you can kind of liken it to like mineral rights like we have now. Like you can own a piece of land, but you don't necessarily own the water or the mineral rights or the oil rights that come under it. Like they're separate rights. And so I can imagine that there might be a race to like capture all of this quote unquote magic, and
Exactly.
obviously who has it is in control because they're more powerful. And I recently read a book by Sebastian de Castell about, and that what you would call progression fantasy, and it's more similar.
Which one?
Oh, and now I'm trying to think of the name of it, but
Because
it's YA fantasy, and it's very much the same. Like
is it the
guy,
Greatcoats or yes,
no,
okay.
Wait.
Or is it
Yeah.
Spellslinger?
Spellslinger, yes.
Yes, okay.
So is that the same? Is that, I mean, I think it's because they have a magic system, sorry, where basically they get these sort of like tattoos that grow on their, that come on their skin, and then they can do that type of magic once they've but they also have hand movements that do the spells and things like that. So that's what I was likening this to, at least in the magic system regard.
I think that one's probably pretty close. Again, progression is sort of like a new sort of trend. And I think that Spellslinger might really predate when people were starting to like talk about it and do it. I don't think that it quite hits all the rules, because like usually it has like a very like, and now I have achieved this tier or something. You get sort of that like little serotonin of like, I got the good grade, I, you know, reached whatever, which Spellslinger is a little like looser on that side. But I would say that like you're not wrong that that's sort of like playing with some of those ideas.
Okay.
And you know what's really funny is Sebastian de Castell is actually the blurb on the back of Ironbound.
Oh, fun! That's awesome.
Yeah,
Sebastian is awesome. He's been on my podcast twice. And
oh, okay, yeah, he's a hoot. I've met him once or twice at Dragon Con, but he was kind enough to give a blurb for the book.
Oh, that's so
and I
cool.
think that he is, I can't remember, but I think he's dabbling with progression, or like he's always been kind of like, he hangs out with a lot of the lit RPG and progression guys. So yeah, I think that's a reasonable example of the kind of thing that we're talking about, but like very light on it.
Right. Oh, very cool. And so this is going to be a series too, right?
It will, yes.
And what is the name of the series?
The series is called Ironbound. After the
and
first one.
The first book is Ironbound.
Also Ironbound.
Okay.
And then book 2 is called Cold Wind, which will be coming out. I'm gonna get this right. I think it's May 5th next year.
Oh wow! So pretty quick.
We're trying. Yep, we're going quick.
That's very exciting. Congratulations!
Thank
and
you.
ATM Publishing is amazing. So they're a lot of fun too. So
yeah, no, we're having a good time.
Good. Well, now you can. Okay, you told everybody where we can find you. Tell us again so we can make sure and go there.
Sure thing. So you can find me under Andrew Givler on Amazon. My 2 series are the Debt Collection, which starts with Soul Fraud, which is my urban fantasy that we talked about a bunch, which book 5 will be coming either late this year or early next year. And then Ironbound, which is the first book in my progression fantasy series, will be coming out October 14th. Through Athon, but they're all on Amazon. Actually, Ironbound will also be in stores everywhere. So you are able to find it at like Barnes & Noble, anything like that. It is being distributed by Simon & Schuster. So you can find it wherever books are sold.
Very cool. I love the cover too. Show us
Thank
again.
you.
I
Yeah.
love the colors on there.
I'm obsessed with it.
Oh yeah.
They really,
so like a city in the background and a
Yep.
sword. Very nice.
There you go.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
They did a great job. I'm super pleased.
Super fun. Well, congratulations again. Thank you for being here. And please come back once you have new books to talk about.
Will do. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.